Three, two, one.
You ready?
You're listening to the Real Pineapple Podcast Network. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. This is the Real Pineapple, and this is your humble host, Hunter, here. I've got over... Okay, you know what? Let's just get this over with. I've got a review for Elvis, which is directed by Baz Luhrmann, who you, of course, know from directing Moulin Rouge, which is excellent, by the way. Romeo and Juliet. Oh, yeah, he did do Australia, didn't he? Australia. The Great Gatsby. So he actually hasn't directed anything since The Great Gatsby. So that was 2013. So, look, I have made my feelings about Elvis very clear. He just stole black music and went ahead and put a very white coat of paint on it, and went ahead and profited and made a bunch of money. You know, good for him. But when I heard they were doing this biopic, my first thought was, okay, I feel like you need to make this a miniseries because it is Elvis, and despite my personal feelings on the gentleman, you know, there is a lot to go ahead and cover, in theory. So I will be the first to admit again, like I went in this with a bad attitude. I just went, I don't care. I don't want to see this. I could give a shit. And after getting out of this movie, I've got to admit, I feel the exact same way because god damn it. Here's the thing, y'all. Austin Butler, who plays Elvis Presley, that is the bit of credit I can actually give to this film. I'm not saying his performance is, you know, Oscar worthy. It's not, by the way. I'm seeing some people go, it's as good as Rami Malek, which, by the way, Rami Malek's performance wasn't Oscar worthy, even though he fucking won. Will Smith has an Oscar too, so the fuck what doesn't mean he deserves to win. But Rami Malek, I didn't think was a great, or even a good Freddie Mercury. Some people are comparing this to Taron Egerton's Rocket Man, and it's not even fucking close. Egerton is light years ahead of this portrayal. But what I do have to give Butler credit for is a lot of the dance stuff where he's like swinging the hips and staying up on his tippy toes and all that. Like a lot of the actual movements of Presley, because I was really looking as closely as I could for that. And it looked like he did a large portion of those bits. So I have to give him a ton of credit for that. The biggest issue, or one of the biggest issues with this movie, is Tom Hanks playing Colonel Tom Parker. And look, I'm such a huge fan of Tom Hanks. I've talked about him on the show dozens of times about how he's one of the greatest actors that we've had in the last 40 years. He's a genuine national treasure. He's America's dad. He should be fucking ashamed of himself for this fucking movie. He is horrible in this movie. And the thing is, he's in a fat suit, and it's really distracting. Like in a lot of cases, watching stuff, I can kind of go like, all right, I've seen this enough that, you know, it just doesn't distract me anymore. But the more I kept seeing him, I'm like, man, that the makeup's not good on this. He looks kind of like what's his name, a fat bastard from the Austin Powers movies, and like the makeup's even like. The makeup should be better than Fat Bastard, considering we're in 2022, and it's not. I know he's lost a lot of weight, but goddamn, this was a role that John Goodman would have fucking crushed. And that's all I kept thinking the whole time is, man, I'm sure John Goodman has a little bit of time in between heading back to South Carolina to shoot Gemstones season 3, and the fact that no one reached out to him. There's plenty of heftier actors in Hollywood that could have done this role. So getting Tom Hanks, the only thing I can assume is that they went, well, Austin Butler's not, you know, a household name. We got to go ahead and bring some credibility to it. So let's get Tom Hanks. But really, all it did is it just took away from Butler's performance for me. And that's quite frustrating because the first, I would say, oh God, hour of this movie is just fucking odd. And it's really just dumb because it shows Elvis as a kid and, you know, he's a big comic book fan, which I do remember reading that he actually did like comic books, but they have him dressed up as, you know, Shazam, Captain Marvel Jr. back in the day. You know, he's got the lightning bolt, or like a lightning bolt, basically Flavor Flav clock around his neck. He's got like the pendant around his neck, and it's one of those things where I just went, you know, I'm not buying this. And one thing that that's always been talked about when it comes to Luhrmann's films is that they move at a frantic pace, and there's so many quick cuts and everything. And that really does the film a disservice here, especially in the first act, because everything is moving so quick, you don't feel like you ever get to know who Elvis is. So when Elvis, you know, of course, gets in peril and things start going bad, you're not as emotionally attached because you haven't really gotten to know him as a person. And I mentioned that Tom Hanks, I think, is fucking terrible in this, but one of the big things is that they tell this really from Tom Parker's point of view. And this is one of those times where, as cliche as it would be, because, you know, even Walk Hard made fun of this, it would have been amazing to have this told from Presley's point of view, maybe before he goes out and sings his last song, which I will say I thought was actually really well done here in the film. But telling it from Parker's point of view, it really robs the film so much of what I think could have made it stand out more, because we're not here to see a Tom Parker movie. We're here to see a fucking Elvis movie. And so the fact that we get a lot less Elvis than I thought we were going to get was kind of insane to me. But moving on through the movie, as far as Presley, you know, we get to see his rise and fall. One of the first, or his first kind of big performance when he's, you know, basically playing, you know, country music, and, you know, we first get to see him, you know, wiggle the hips and all that. The way those concert sequences are filmed for me are far and away the best parts of the movie. That first concert scene is kind of like, this is okay. There is one later on, and they show it in the trailer, where Elvis has been going through some turmoil from, you know, people going like, you're making girls feel things, how fucking dare you? And, you know, he's told, don't you even wiggle a finger out there. And, you know, he goes up on stage and talks about how, you know, people are telling him who he needs to be, and no one's going to go ahead and do that. And I really found that speech kind of inspired. I was like, oh, okay. And then he wiggles one finger and then goes into, I believe it's Heartbreak Hotel, which I was like, okay, man, that actually was all right, fair enough. I'll give you that. There is another scene later on, and actually, I'll get to that. I'll get to that in a second. But it's really frustrating because there is a movie here that I think with another director. I think, oh God, who would I get to direct this? I think Spielberg, if he hadn't done West Side Story and he did this Elvis movie, I think Spielberg could have nailed this shit. Because even though I'm not in love with West Side Story like a lot of people are, it's damn sure better than this movie is. And the movie admittedly does try to go ahead and kind of get ahead of obviously what my biggest axe to grind has always been with Elvis, how, you know, we don't talk about the fact that he really stole black culture in music and went ahead and used that, you know, for his personal and career advancement, and really never gave anything back to it. It was cool to see some black artists in here, like B.B. King, like Little Richard, like Fats Domino, like Big Mama Thornton. I mean, cool, that's great, but really their purpose is to be there to go, well, we checked that box. We don't really even get we get one one Little Richard performance, which admittedly was cool, but that's really it. We're not, like, Elvis talks to B.B. King for one scene, maybe two. And one of the scenes is B.B. King basically being Elvis's Bagger Vance and being like, you know, that colonel's going to screw you over. You need to go ahead and, you know, keep your head on a swivel. He doesn't say that, but he might as well have said that shit. And that's really all we get on that front. And that was something I went, all right, that's pretty dumb. So I wasn't crazy about that. Also, the fact that the movie basically opens up with him as a poor white kid, living in Tupelo, Mississippi, Tupelo, pardon me, Mississippi, and how he used to sneak around and see black people dancing in shacks and shit, and going to black church and feeling the Holy Spirit, and going ahead and being inspired by that. I just went, oh god, okay, we're doing it this way. The movie really goes out of its way at points to really overcorrect to try to make Elvis seem way less right-leaning than he was. There's this point where when Martin Luther King Jr. gets assassinated, he flat out goes like, Dr. King, he was always right about everything. And I just went, oh, give me a fucking break, dude. Like, you didn't say that shit. Dude, you don't care. Not this much. And there's multiple moments like that in the movie where I just rolled my eyes. I mean, I still remember the fact, and look, I didn't do a bunch of research on Elvis for this review because, again, I don't care. But the fact that I still remember that he went to the White House to ask President Nixon for a fucking narcotics badge so that he could go ahead and play his part in the war on drugs. Like Elvis was that dude. He wasn't this, Negro loving, like, let's go down the honky tonks and let's go ahead and sing together. That wasn't Elvis. So them trying to go ahead and make that spin, I definitely was rolling my eyes like, give me a fucking break. Also, they gloss the fuck over the fact that when he gets married or starts courting Olivia, I'm gonna butcher your name, I'm sorry, DeJong's, Priscilla Presley. She was fucking 14 when that happened, which, again, the movie just goes, shh, when that happens. They kind of just meet, and they just go, all right, they're together, shut up. And it just kind of takes off from there. And Priscilla Presley, I know, is still just riding Elvis's coattails all these years later. They end up getting divorced, of course, because why wouldn't they? And it's really weird because the way they meet is so rushed through. And so by the time we get to the actual divorce, and, the movie plays it up like, oh man, like, isn't this tragic? This could be tragic if I knew anything about their relationship, if I got to know anything about her, if I got to see them together, independent of him playing music. But that's really all it is. We don't get any real downtime with Elvis. One of the closest thing, I would say the downtime, or one of the closest things we get to downtime with Elvis is when he does, right before he does his comeback special, and he hires these guys to go ahead, help him, get back to the top, as it were. And he asks them straight up, like, what do you think of my career? And they flat out go, like, you're in the toilet, like, you suck right now. And it's one of those rare moments for me that they let Butler just act and let him be vulnerable. And there's really not a lot of that until the last half hour. But by then you've been sitting through a 2-hour fucking movie. So at that point, I'm just kind of going, I don't care. Can we wrap this up? Like I said, this is 2 hours and 39 minutes, and it feels like 3 hours easily. God, I'm trying to think of what else. Hanks really does sink a lot of this for me. I'm sure this was made in some parts in earnest, but at the same time, if you can't execute, that doesn't fucking matter. This was written by Baz Luhrmann, Sam Bromwell. This is their debut as a screenwriter. And then Craig Pierce was another writer on it. He wrote on Romeo and Juliet, Moulin Rouge, The Great Gatsby, Charlie St. Cloud. Holy shit! Oh, that's not good. And then wrote this. And then the other writer was Jeremy Donner, who went ahead and wrote Heartbreaker back in 2010. Oh my gosh, I remember that movie. Yeah, so not a crazy amount of talent on the writing side, but. Okay, how do I want to put this? I think if you're an Elvis fan, let's be clear. If you're an Elvis fan, you can give a fuck what I'm going to say. You're going to go see this movie anyway, and you're going to go, Oh, he went, thank you very much, thank you very much. Oh my god, Elvis is the best. Like, it could fucking matter less what I fucking say. But as a person of color watching this movie, I was just sitting there rolling my eyes going, give me a fucking break. I don't care. And I should care more for a movie that's almost 3 fucking hours. I should get to know Elvis more as a person. But again, you really don't get that until the last 30 minutes or so, when you get to see Elvis really spiraling. The film earlier on does hint at his drug use, and the one emotional attachment, or the main emotional attachment I was able to make, is I was really comparing Elvis to Mickey Rourke in The Wrestler, in the sense that Elvis is just running himself into the ground, because you find out, that's kind of a spoiler, I'll leave that alone. But you find out one reason why the Colonel was pushing Elvis so hard, and you kind of go, oh, okay. But it's almost like Elvis was a pro wrestler in that sense, where he's just having to perform over and over and over again. And you do start to see the wear and tear on just his body and on his psyche. But one of the things that I know some people, most people probably who don't like him, criticize Lerman for, is the fact that his shit is so frantic and it's so erratic. And this is one of those times where he really should have slowed down and just let Austin Butler go ahead and shine. But because so much of the focus is on Hanks, there really isn't a lot of chances to do that, which is really quite terrible and really does a disservice to him, which again fucking sucks. There is this line where, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, but someone flat out goes, "You can't cancel Elvis," and I just rolled my eyes going, oh my fucking god, you're so pointing that middle finger at those damn liberals. Like, why would you want to cancel Elvis? And there are just moments like that where I went, I don't care, shut up. The scene I mentioned with BB King, where they're having this conversation about music, and BB King flat out tells him, like, dude, they're not going to arrest you. There's too many people making money off of you for them to arrest you. And let's be clear, while Elvis does get arrested, if that was BB King doing that shit, he wouldn't have made it in the fucking cop car. So Elvis got off fucking light as far as I'm fucking concerned. But the movie just kind of goes, yep, this is Elvis's tragedy. Like, doesn't that suck? And I don't know, y'all. The more I was sitting there watching it, and I've talked about this before, I've had a couple of my friends go like, dude, you went in this movie, with bad attitude. That's not fair. I'm sorry. That's why trailers fucking exist. I'm not supposed to go into every fucking movie excited for what I'm gonna see. I had a feeling I wasn't gonna like this, and yeah, I didn't like this at all. But credit where it's due, I thought the cinematography in some parts was really well done, especially on the concert sequences. I don't have the name of the costume designer, but they did a painstakingly great job at points as far as the outfits that Elvis wore. Like, it looked he looked like Elvis just off the clothes, just off of his attire. But there's a lot of stuff that they just don't touch on at all, which I would think for a 3-hour fucking movie you would. They don't get into the Memphis Mafia really at all. They're just a bunch of random people who, Elvis knows are always hanging around, but they don't talk about they kind of have one throwaway line about how, he's supporting all of them. They kind of get into it with him and his mom and their tumultuous relationship, but that's not even really addressed nearly well enough for my liking before she dies. Elvis's mom died. That's common knowledge. Shut up. It's not a spoiler. But there's so much start and stop at certain things where I went, yeah, a little more clarification on that would have been nice. His dad, even, who ends up becoming, is the one who's supposed to be in charge of his money and making sure he's being taken care of and all that. His dad just drops a fucking ball. And by the time Elvis finds out, you just go, oh, wow, that fucking sucks. But there's never really any follow-up on that. There's one point where Elvis freaks out on his dad, but that's really it. We're not really seeing his dad become that sniveling piece of shit like we really should for that moment to hit. I will give Butler credit on the fact that in that last third where we get to see Elvis spiral more and go ahead and, he's doing the drugs and he's becoming, angry because he realizes how he's being taken advantage of. Those are some of the parts where he really gets to shine the most. And I went, oh, okay, like this is actually good. I mentioned it earlier, but the comeback special, that's my favorite sequence in the movie by a sizable margin. It felt like that was one of the few times where Lerman went, all right, I'm going to let my actor be his, really become Elvis. And there is a presence that Butler brings in that scene that does feel very Elvis Presley-esque. And I was like really sitting there going, oh, wow, I'm shocked that, this is happening right now. But, they never touched on any of Elvis's other girlfriends, of which he had several. They don't talk about the fact that Elvis was like a legendary eater. Like, there's no peanut butter banana sandwiches. There's no him. There's really no fat Elvis in this movie either until like the last 5 minutes basically of the movie. Like, Butler's basically the same size the whole film. And Butler's going from, Elvis died when he was 42, but there's really no like makeup or anything to like make him look old or anything. He just looks the same, which I went, that's not how it works unless you're Paul Rudd or Charlize Theron. But come on, y'all. Like, I think we've all seen pictures of Elvis, in his later years, and he did not look like that. So I definitely was kind of sitting there going, all right, are we not gonna go there? All right, cool. I don't know. Like, look, I've been thinking about my grade because I got out of this about an hour ago, and I don't know, like, I don't like this. Like, the more I was sitting there thinking about it, I was like, like, could I recommend this to an Elvis fan? Like, not really. Like, I'd probably tell you to watch the comeback special and call it good. I'm sure there will be someone who uploads clips of Butler's performance, like the best, the quote, best of, quote unquote. And yeah, if you want to watch those on YouTube, sure. But I saw this at, Discount Movie Tuesday at Cinemark. I paid $5.50 for this. And yeah, $5.50, was it worth $5.50? I guess, sure. But, that equates to basically renting this shit at home. So even if for an Elvis fan, I would say, yeah, rent this at home. There's really nothing that warrants a theatrical experience. And I can't believe I'm saying this because, Tom Cruise and because the people who love this movie have been fucking annoying about it. Thank you, Nathan. Go see Top Gun Maverick over this shit. Like, you don't need to see this on a big screen. If you really have to see this, wait till it comes out on Prime Video or Vudu or wherever you get you rent your movies. But for me, yeah, I'm gonna give this a D. A D for just dumb. I just didn't care. And at the end of the day, even for something I don't care about, if I feel like I learned something about the artist, I can at least go like, oh, all right, at least I feel like I learned something. I really didn't feel like I learned something at all. It felt like very much like a fluff piece to go, hey, black people, like, see, Elvis had some black people in his band eventually. Isn't that cool? He probably only paid them 3/5 of what they're worth. Like, it's just like, shut up. So yeah, whatever. I can't even be like that angry. That's not true. I was pretty angry walking out. Never mind. What am I talking about? But yeah, if you have to see this, rent it. But this is something I'll never watch again. If someone told me like, hey, you want to go see this with me? Even if they were buying dinner afterwards, I'd be like, I'm good. I don't need to see Elvis again. But yeah, this is a movie that exists. So, Elvis, have you seen it? What did you think of it? Let us know in the comments. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter at JHunterRealPineapple. Don't forget to like both of our pages on Facebook at The Real Pineapple. That's REEL Pineapple and Real Pineapple Games. Don't forget to subscribe and let us know what you think of the show. You can find us most places you listen to podcasts. SoundCloud, Apple, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon Music, and TuneUp. Samsung podcast now at The Real Pineapple. Oh yeah, guys, is there anything else I want to push? Oh yeah, find me on Letterboxd at Black Shazam, and you can find me on TikTok at Black Shazam 775. Thank you so much for listening. We'll have reviews coming up here soon for Thor: Love and Thunder, which I'm really excited for that. We'll have reviews up for Miss Marvel when that concludes. We've got another couple episodes of that. Gonna have a review for The Princess as well, which I've got plenty to say about that. But thank you so much for listening, everyone. Stay safe out there. Get your booster if you haven't gotten it. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon.